Hey people on YouTube, it's me, or an animation of me. Today we're discussing a very common and important matter which makes day-to-day life hard to live and tremendously impacts our emotional and mental health. And you clicked on this video because probably at some point you found yourself feeling something like this. Hello everyone, this is my mind speaking, and I strongly believe that I suck. Oh, isn't an anxiety just the greatest? Sat there remaining 3 brain cells in my decaying mind as they tap dance on my sanity? Okay, but not for the real talk. Anxiety is horrible. It's a paralyzing fear that prevents you from engaging in normal activities and you feel like you're fading away. But you gotta differentiate between normal anxiety, where you just feel anxious, versus the anxiety disorder, which is considered a mental illness. So let's start by defining normal anxiety. Anxiety is actually more common than you think. We get anxious when we're meeting new people or talking to new friends or someone we don't know. We get anxious when we're talking to someone we like or have a crush on. Come on, we've all been there. And we all get anxious before a big exam we have or an important job interview and other responsibilities like getting money. So we all relate to this. And anxious reactions get triggered and you go into fight or flight response when any potential harm is perceived. And we'd probably flee in this situation. So now, what is an anxiety disorder and how is it different from normal anxiety? And is it serious? Well, yes, it is serious, and telling someone that they're overreacting or to just go deal with it or let it go is actually insulting. And this can actually lead people with anxiety disorder to go to alcohol, drugs, smoking, and even harm because of what they're going through. And did you know that 30% of people with an anxiety disorder don't seek treatment or see a therapist? But don't worry, it's not gonna be like, hello stranger, let me tell you personal info on why I'm broken. I'm guessing. Now, how to know if you have an anxiety disorder? Well, if you're overthinking the most insignificant events, or you're excessively worrying that a disaster is gonna fall on your head, or if you feel like you have negative thoughts running through your mind all the time, and if you're sleeping too much because of the fatigue or to escape reality, or if you're sleeping too little and you suffer from insomnia, and if you're panicking over the slightest, tiniest thing possible, like the color of your cereal box, or is it just me? And you feel like your heart's pounding out of your chest and your head's throbbing because of all the agitation in your mind and the beasts banging in your head, and you feel overwhelmed in situations where you shouldn't, and you also feel like you're depressed and you're confused and you're eaten away by stress, then you probably have an anxiety disorder. And this is you. You're like a ticking time bomb waiting to explode. And now we're gonna talk about social anxiety. It's where we feel like all eyes are on us, but not because we're too confident. It's actually because we're very insecure and we feel like there's something wrong going on with us. And you start ruminating for hours after a very simple talk. And tantalizing questions start rioting inside your head. And you say, why did I say that? I should have said this instead. And you start feeling bad about yourself. But don't worry, I'm gonna help you get rid of your anxiety with one silly question only. So dry those tears up because we have 2 simple steps to do before we get to the question. And these steps don't involve throwing yourself into a hell of uncomfortable social interactions. Yes, you heard that right, it's possible. So step number 1 is being aware that it's your anxious thoughts that are speaking. Don't mistake your sane mind for your anxious one. Let your anxious mind elaborate on all the fears that are overwhelming it and listen to that carefully. Your anxious thoughts can be easily distinguished from normal thoughts because anxious ones are going to be tantalizing, overwhelming, and very exaggerated. So now that you're mindful that it's your anxious thoughts that are speaking, let's move on to step number 2. Let your anxiety elaborate on the situation to the extent of exaggeration. So basically, you need to imagine all the possible consequences of the stressful situation you're in right now, until you reach the worst possible scenario. And what could that be? Flying elephants, a zombie apocalypse, or scary ugly butterflies? Or, of course, the end of the world and human race as we know it. Okay, so now we imagined the worst possible scenarios and the end of the world. And now, finally, it's time for step number 3. The silly question that we've all been waiting for is... Okay, so what? Come on, what's the worst that could happen? What could be more horrible than ugly butterflies? So, you really don't have any reason to worry. You'll be just fine. And now, let's go back to this. I do art videos and I'm very insecure and anxious, and I have low self-confidence when it comes to displaying my art, especially that a huge number of people are gonna see it, and just putting yourself out there is scary. But I want you to remember that whatever happens or whatever you do, you rule.